The Dallas Mavericks appear to be zeroing in on their new head coach. Meanwhile, they're turning to Nike to try and go star chasing for free agents. This is the Gray Area right here on Kevin Gray Sports. My name is Kevin Gray. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. You can catch you on your home of the Dallas Cowboys and Texas Rangers 105.3 The Fan. Yeah, I know my voice isn't where it needs to be, so bear with me as I get through this. I appreciate y'all subscribing to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. So we'll give it a shot. Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks appear to be giving Jason Kidd another shot to be head coach in the NBA. Jason Kidd, whose record is 183 and 190 in 5 seasons as an NBA head coach with the Brooklyn Nets and, of course, the Milwaukee Bucks, appears to be the new head coach for the Dallas Mavericks. Meanwhile, the Mavericks are zeroing in on Nico Harrison, longtime executive over at Nike, with a penchant for developing and fostering relationships in and around the league with players across the NBA. Appears to be headed toward the front office for the Mavericks to work alongside Michael Finley. Obviously, for Mark Cuban, what has been a tumultuous couple of weeks after seeing the departures of Rick Carlisle, who was named the head coach of the Indiana Pacers after spending the last 13 seasons with the Mavericks, publicly endorsed Jason Kidd for the job on the way out the door, which was a little odd. But then also the departure, obviously, of Donnie Nelson being fired after spending 24 seasons with this franchise. Now it appears the triumvirate of Nico Harrison, Michael Finley, and Jason Kidd will try to go star chasing to try and get free agents to come to the Dallas Mavericks. All the things that we've heard about Nico Harrison, who's worked alongside the guys like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and of course was a right-hand man for Kobe Bryant for a long time, seems to be a guy who has a lot of fostered relationships around the league. And everything that you hear and see from folks like C.J. McCollum and Jared Dudley and others across the league, they are genuinely excited and happy for Nico Harrison to be a part of an NBA franchise and a part of its front office. So we will see if the long-time relationships of a Nico Harrison, who has been spotted around the American Airlines Center, it was at Dirk Nowitzki's last game and has been around the Dallas Mavericks for quite some time, will continue to have the kind of relationships alongside Luka Doncic that will attract free agents to come to the city going forward, because that's one of the biggest knocks, of course, for this franchise over the past decade, obviously, and more, is that they didn't been able to attract free agents to come to this team. And now with Rick Carlisle out and Jason Kidd in, more on that here in a second, it appears the Mavericks are trying to go and do the kind of star chasing that has eluded them for several years to try and surround Luka Doncic with better players, not only just in terms of this year's free agency, but going forward also. Now back to the Jason Kidd thing for a second. Besides all the basketball stuff, the criticism of his X's and O's, in-game adjustments, and the fact that he has not really shown the ability to be a good head coach in this league, you can put all that stuff aside for the second. The fact that this franchise has continued to have repeated and unfortunate incidents of sexual harassment charges in its front office, and how Mark Cuban has been overseeing this front office, obviously does not look good. The optics of hiring Jason Kidd, who has pleaded guilty to domestic violence and abuse in the past, being hired by this franchise, is tone deaf at best. And for Mark Cuban, it does not appear that he's learned much organizationally or culturally over the last several years, especially dealing with the amount of scandals that he's dealt with under his purview. So there's that also with Jason Kidd being brought in as head coach. You can say what you want in terms of him being a player's coach, a guy who players love around this league. The Lakers, we've heard from Ramona Shelburne talk about how the Lakers love Jason Kidd as being part of this assistant staff under Frank Vogel. All of that stuff aside, the fact that Mark Cuban decided to go down this road is curious and odd at best. We should have seen the signs coming, though, honestly. The Mavericks decided to bring in Dirk Nowitzki as a special advisor. Dirk Nowitzki's had a really good relationship with Jason Kidd throughout the years. Michael Finley and Jason Kidd are also close. So once you started to see kind of the writing on the wall with Dirk Nowitzki being brought in, obviously Michael Finley still around in terms of basketball operations, it was a natural connection to think that Jason Kidd could be a candidate. It was initially reported by ESPN's Tim McMahon that Jason Kidd was briefly discussed as head coach for this team. Now, also, we've heard from Brad Townsend of the Dallas Morning News that Jamal Mosley didn't really get the kind of consideration that we thought he was going to get given how he has a terrific relationship with Luka Doncic and the fact that was going to be used as a large selling point to make Jamal Mosley the next head coach of the Dallas Mavericks. He seems to have not gotten that much consideration at all, which is also troubling. But now for the Mavericks, the idea that they have decided to bring in Jason Kidd as their new head coach, look, I wasn't a fan of the idea of Jason Kidd being the head coach, even aside from all of the domestic violence stuff that we know and has been well documented. This is a front office that needed to change culturally, but more importantly, put itself in a position where it was more progressive. Now you say Kevin, the hire of Nico Harrison, that potentially is able to do so given the fact that he has been with Nike for quite some time and has fostered the kind of player relationships that would give Mavericks fans encouragement that they could potentially lure some free agents in here. I get it. It's a new move. It's a bold move to try and enlist a longtime basketball executive with Nike to be able to do so. Because let's face it, the NBA is run by Nike. Fostering and developing relationships among players when it comes to these sneaker companies such as Nike has been a big part of the league for a long time. So it's a natural fit that Nico Harrison will be brought in to try and help continue to foster those relationships. But for Mark Cuban, this has obviously been a tumultuous time period for him. Can he put himself in a position now where he is helping this Mavericks team get over what has been obviously a level of stability for the last 10 years, but as we've come to know and seen, maybe it wasn't so stable after all, especially over the last 3 years with your man Bob Voulgaris running around for the Mavericks in terms of his analytics and all the things that he was suggesting. That remains to be seen. But as the Mavericks now move forward, it's going to be up to Mark Cuban to show that he could turn over a new leaf. The hiring of Jason Kidd doesn't necessarily encourage me that he's going to do that. Obviously, with Nico Harrison being brought in, that does signal some kind of change. But more importantly, are the Mavericks are they going to be able to do the kind of star chasing that this move signals that they're going to be able to do it in? Obviously, they're going to have a tremendous amount of cap space going into this year, especially if they decide to move on from Tim Hardaway Jr. and if Josh Richardson decides to decline his player option, which is near $12 million. We'll see about that also. But now, for the Mavericks, we'll see. Obviously, I'll reserve judgment when it comes to all of these moves in specifics. But the Jason Kidd one, not so much. Nico Harrison, okay, cool. Michael Finley, kind of had an idea that he was going to be staying with this organization in some capacity in one form or another. That doesn't necessarily surprise me. What does surprise me is the fact that the Mavericks did actually go with Jason Kidd. And more importantly, Mark Cuban doesn't seem to have learned the kind of lesson that we thought he did. This was the same man that was crying to Rachel Nichols talking about the idea that he was apologizing for what has happened under his purview and his watch when it comes to the sexual harassment and allegations surrounding him in his front office over the last couple of years. Did he learn much? I don't think so. But if you're Luka Doncic, maybe this is the right move for you because now you have a player in a coach now in Jason Kidd who's been there and done that as a point guard in this league, who players respect around the league as what he was as a basketball player. Maybe as a coach, he can have a renaissance and a turnaround. All this remains to be seen, but what all of this signals is that the Mavericks are doing these moves because Luka Doncic is the one that they need to keep around. He's going to sign his 5-year, $201.5 million extension, his rookie max extension. That's for certain. But now, going forward, can the Mavericks, Mark Cuban, Nico Harrison, Michael Finley, Dirk Nowitzki staying around as a special advisor to help out also, and more importantly, Jason Kidd, give Luka Doncic the kind of confidence to stay around beyond just his rookie deal and his rookie max extension? We'll see. Dallas Mavericks appear to be zeroing in on Jason Kidd as their brand new head coach. Meanwhile, Nico Harrison is being brought in, it appears, to help run basketball operations for the Dallas Mavericks. When this news becomes official, don't worry, your man will jump right back on here, hopefully with a voice and all, to be able to discuss it more with you. But at the same time, the Mavericks, Mark Cuban, good luck with that. We'll see if they can handle their business going forward. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Kevin Gray Sports. Be sure to hit that subscribe button right there for all things Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. This has been another episode of The Gray Area. We'll talk to you later. And again, when this news breaks officially, I'll be right back here, hopefully with a voice of mine to be able to help out, and we can talk about it. Let us know in the comments. Let me know in the comments how you feel about all this stuff, and we'll talk about it then. We'll talk to you later. Peace.